Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for HUECU's debt repayment strategies. During today's webinar, we will be reducing all background noise, so if anything going on in your background, please don't worry about it. We've taken care of that. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A feature. The chat has been disabled, and it allows us to ensure that we answer your questions thoroughly and we take it seriously. Also, this presentation will be recorded and it is available to be rewatched on our YouTube page. That is huecu.org. That's my youtube.com/myhuecu. And my name is Terrence Brazil. I am the community engagement specialist, and I'm so happy to have you here today. And as we're getting started, I want to talk about the credit union difference. So here at HUECU, we try our best to offer better value, better service, and better business for our members. We are a non-for-profit, so what that means is we do our best to ensure that we take into consideration all of your needs and values and deliver that same value directly to you at a reduced cost. In the term of, and we also, whenever we make profit, we try our best to deliver that revenue in the form of free financial resources such as Thrive. Thrive Financial Wellness is where you can stop by on our webpage at huecu.org/thrive to learn more about free financial counseling videos, our blogs, our workshops, worksheets, and it's a one-stop shop to really begin your financial wellness journey so that way you're able to learn and thrive your best. Next up, we also have a new branch in the Longwood Medical area, located at 435 Brookline Ave, right near you if you're at the BILH spot or anywhere in the Longwood Medical area. Please stop by. We love when you say hi. Now, step one. What are your goals? Debt repayment strategies can be a bit overwhelming, and especially when it comes to knowing where to start and how to repay your debts. And I do want to acknowledge that for this slide, we're going to orient ourselves and just acknowledge debt repayment can be scary, but we're going to get through it. And there's going to be a couple different tips as we go throughout the presentation that if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to put them in the chat and we will answer them. But first off, what are your goals? And this is where we want to acknowledge where we are in the process. And we're going to align our priorities. And if you're looking for new and strategic ways to align your priorities, please visit our partner GreenPath, where they have multiple worksheets and different tools and tricks to help you decipher where you are in your journey and help prepare you on how to go about the best way to repay your debt strategically and how to be an active borrower. You are here. So first up, what do you owe? You want to take a look at what's going on with maybe you want to look at your different debts and possibly analyze what loans you currently have, what interest rates you currently have, what is your current credit score, and we're going to take all this to calculate the total cost of your debt. And I say this not to scare you or not to feel like, hey, this is an overwhelming thing, but I want to communicate a message of hope. No matter where you are in your debt repayment journey, it's transitory, where you'll be able to transition from one point to the next, no matter what your credit score is, no matter what's going on. But as long as you have the education and the information, I want you to feel empowered to make changes for a better financial future. Okay. Now, to begin with calculating the cost of your debt. These numbers are purely for educational purposes only. Not everyone's situation will directly align with the slides right here, but the concepts are what matters here in terms of the loan amounts, the interest rate, and the terms and monthly payments. These are pretty standard across most loans when it comes to looking at it. And I really bring this up to show you the significant cost when it comes to interest paid, because looking at it, $10,000 for 120 months with 120 monthly payment, that doesn't feel like a lot. Same thing with the second loan of $5,000 at 18%, which is pretty high. $127 per month doesn't feel like it's a lot. However, over the course of the entire loan, the total interest paid is almost 6 grand. Oh, over 6 grand actually. And that is significant. $6,000 in total interest paid. That is something that I would rather have you put towards a vacation. I personally like my lender, but I don't love my lender. I would not want to give them any extra dollars that I don't have to if I can repurpose that to something that is more meaningful to me as a person. Again, for this example, to bring it back all together, this is a total amount of $15,000 and the monthly payment at 246, which no, it doesn't feel like it's a lot. But over time, this can add up. And this is just two loans. Depending on situation, you may have more, you may have less. And I show this to scare you a little bit, but to show you the practicality and the realness behind being an active versus a passive borrower and how we can go about new ways of restructuring our debt to make it worthwhile for us. And now, as we're having conversations of paying back debt and making maybe a bit of more of a monthly payment, I do want to stress the importance of also having an emergency fund. Having an emergency fund as you're paying down your debt will allow you to be better positioned financially for potential hiccups. Because honestly, let's face it, life happens. Flat tires happen, things that you're not expecting pop up. And I would not want you to be in a position of fast forward paying your debt at the cost of not donating to your own emergency fund over time, because we do want to be prepared for life emergencies and not potentially get backtracked and placed back into debt because you are fast tracking and not putting into an emergency fund. Also, at the same time, I know during times of inflation, things may be difficult. It might be hard to set aside money towards an emergency fund, but start small. Starting small with maybe $50 here, $25 here, and slowly building over time will, over time, help you to set aside a bit of a cushion. And that cushion will bring you a little bit of financial peace as it grows from 3 months, maybe 6 months. And if you aren't able to hit your monthly goal every single month, again, that's completely okay. There is hope, and pick up again and start next month and see what you can do. If it's just $25, if it's just $10, it's completely okay. Slow progress is better than no progress. Now, step two, we're going to jump into the different debt repayment strategies so that way we're able to analyze and see which one works best for you and your money personality. That's a bit of a callback to a different presentation, and I hope you've been with us thus far, and money personalities will come up again later. So there's two different methods, snowball method and the avalanche method. The snowball method focuses on the smallest amount of debt first, and as you gain momentum, you're able to then reapply that same amount of money towards the next loan. And while this is happening, you are making the minimum monthly payment on each debt. So I don't want you to think that you're just allocating and focusing all your resources on the smallest amount of debt and not worrying about the other ones, not worrying, but taking care of the other payments. I still want you to make the minimum monthly payments on all of them, but slowly and surely with the concept of small wins, you'll then take it to the next one. The other option is the avalanche method. And I like to think, and when we'll get to a graphic later, the avalanche method talks about the highest interest rate first. In this method, this talks about potentially restructuring out your loans where it's, let's say, 18%, 7%, and 5%, and focusing any extra funds towards the 18% loan first. And now, there's two schools of thought when it comes to this. There is the time method and there's the money method. With the snowball method, this is a bit more time focused where you could potentially shave off some extra months out of debt versus the avalanche method, which is mostly focused on the savings on the interest rate when it comes to making payments on your loan. Here's a graphic just to put it a bit more into perspective. And I like to think about this as an upside down triangle as opposed to a right side up triangle, where my debt avalanche focuses on the highest interest rate. I want all that interest coming down, and I like the feeling of it. For me, I like saving money as opposed to saving time, but that's completely okay. That's my personality. I've had a colleague in the past who was a bit more focused on time, where they enjoyed, well, their motivation was a bit more on how much time they could save on having their loan as opposed to the interest. Where if they're able to shave 6 months off of their loan, they're able to free up that cash flow and reapply it to something that's a bit more fun than paying back debt. Because no one likes to pay back debt, but we all like vacations, and I want everyone here to take a vacation sooner than later. Now, a little goes a long way. In this example, we're going to be looking at a $10,000 loan at 7% with a monthly payment of $200 in terms of 60 months. Not too long, but I do want to call attention to an additional $25. And I know it's not just $25. $25, depending on the situation, can be a lot, but I show this to show the impact of an additional $25. There's two main schools of thought here. This will reduce the total interest paid by about $400 to $500 and also reduce the terms by 8 months. This is where the two schools of thoughts come in. If the extra $25, if you have it and you're able to apply it and you're more time focused, the removal of 8 months off your loan can be extremely motivating and helping you maybe pick up a second job or reallocate some different cash flows, whatever your situation may be. And I don't want to prescribe a one size fits all methodology because that's not the case. Everyone is in a different point of view and different point when it comes to debt repayment. But $25 does make a little bit of a difference if you're looking at potentially reducing the terms on your loan and or reducing the interest paid. Taking it a step further, where you're adding in an additional $50 to potentially paying down your loan sooner than later. And I know, especially right now in an inflationary environment, we may not have the extra cash flow to apply this towards our loans. However, I do want to show you the impact it can have if that's a possibility for you and your situation when it comes to paying back your loans. Say, for me personally, I love the idea of not paying interest to my lender. The extra $50, if I can come up with it, I will 100% apply it towards my loans. So that way I'm taking that 1850 down to 1421, saving $400 and saying, you know what, I'm done with this. For some people, maybe taking the loan terms from 60 months down to 46 and potentially saving 14 months, that's huge. 14 months of savings where I'm not putting $250 towards my loan and I can put that towards a vacation, maybe put it towards a different loan, maybe put it towards a car payment, just repurposing it in a way that aligns with my financial goals a little bit more. Now, step three, I want to talk about your different options when it comes to making your loan payments and what you can consider in terms of maybe making an extra payment isn't right for you. First off, speak with your lender. I cannot stress the importance of speaking with a lender, and I'll bring up an example of how I've done this in the past and what savings it's helped with me. For example, I had a credit card that was at 18%. It really jumped up with the interest rate during actually during right after the pandemic, and it felt like I wasn't making a dent because all of my money was going towards interest and none of it was going towards the principal. So I called up my credit card company and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. Is there anything you can do to help me so that way I can still make these payments because I 100% want to make these payments, but I would like to just have a conversation." Through that conversation, I was able to have my credit card interest rate reduced from 18% to 4.9%. I did go on payments only, which is completely okay. And I was able to still apply a lower monthly payment to it. So that way it was 100% towards the principal and it was beautiful. And I got through that completely free of charge. And it just was me reaching out to my lender and saying, what are the options? And asking questions and seeing what is available to me. Not every credit card or lender may have the option where they'll be able to reduce an interest rate, but it is worth the conversation. Maybe they're able to propose a new payment for you. Maybe they can talk about loan deferment, a loan forbearance, and these options can be applicable, they may not be applicable to everyone, but they may help with month-to-month cash flow in the short term, especially right now with student loan payments suddenly coming back. I would definitely be having a conversation with my lender and maybe my student loan lender as well, just to see what my options are. Because you want to be an active borrower. You want to take your loans into your own hands and maybe even potentially see if you can get your loans. Just see what options are available to you. You might be surprised at what options are available to you free of charge. Next up, I also want to talk about refinancing. What refinancing is specifically, it is one loan that is paying off a previous loan. And I do want to be mindful that when you take that new loan, you are 100% adopting all of the new terms of that new loan, and you are forfeiting all of the old terms and benefits that was previously associated with that old loan. For example, with student loan repayment, I wouldn't necessarily, if they're currently held with the federal government, I wouldn't necessarily refinance them because there are some baked in benefits that you might potentially lose out on if you refinance them with the private lender. However, if your loan is already with a private lender, whether it's an auto loan or a mortgage, maybe not mortgages because interest rates are a bit on the higher side, but if you have an auto loan with a high interest rate, and at the time you initially got the loan, you had maybe not the best credit score or your financial situation was a bit different, maybe look into refinancing because you might be able to get a lower interest rate and or extend out the loan terms leading to a lower monthly payment. So how that works is, let's say I have, for example, a $10,000 loan at 7%, and I'm making roughly a $250 monthly payment for 60 months. If I'm able to refinance and maybe extend out the loan term to, instead of 60 months, to 120 months and possibly reduce my interest rate, that will lead to a lower monthly payment, and that extra cash flow I might be able to apply to that same loan and pay it off a little bit sooner and maybe even save on interest rates. Typically with this, there's no application fees or prepayment penalties, but I do want to stress, discuss talking with the lender first because that may not be applicable for every single lender, but it does go to say talking with your lender does have some benefits, and at least asking questions. So, with the benefits of refinancing, as I touched on before, with the example of a $10,000 loan at a $200 payment for 60 months, with potentially refinancing down to a lower interest rate of just 2% down to 5%, you can lower your monthly payment to 189, a little bit of savings, and reduce total interest paid by roughly $500, but still keep the same terms. Now, that's some significant savings in total interest paid. Now, if we want to take it from not looking at it from a money standpoint to a time standpoint, time versus money here, we want to look at potentially still applying that same $200 payment, and this will reduce the terms by 3 months. So if you're looking to pay off that loan sooner than later, and you are able to refinance into a lower monthly interest, into a lower interest rate of 5%, or maybe a different lower interest rate, but still keep the same monthly payment, there will be significant interest savings and savings on terms. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to pop them in the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer them. If you have any concerns about doing this or anything at all, if you have any specific questions, please contact GreenPath. They'll be able to look at your specific situation and provide specific advice on specific loans for you. Now, what to consider before refinancing. I would definitely consider your interest rate and take a minute. And I know this may not be fun. This may not be the most exciting thing to do on a weekend. However, you want to be an active borrower, taking the time to look at what your interest rate is and compare interest rates to different lenders to see what you could potentially get into. Maybe a new refinance is the option for you. Maybe you don't want to refinance because of the benefits associated with your loan. Maybe you do have a higher credit score than you were before. Whatever it may be, taking the time to at least look into it will put you in a position where you're more financially knowledgeable and more prepared to take the steps when potentially interest rates change or your credit score goes up a little bit higher, and you can be ready to act as opposed to not being prepared and just kind of being a passive borrower. Nothing wrong with it, but if you are interested in taking more proactive steps, these are the best places to start when looking at what to consider before refinancing. Looking at your interest rate, looking at the benefits associated with the loan, and looking at the credit score. Now, as you're going through this, you want to look for lower rates. Traditionally, with personal loans, there are some stipulations. Personal loans typically have lower interest rates than credit cards, which can have a variable interest rate associated with it, where it could range depending on how high your credit score is and or the prime rate. The prime rate does change as time goes on, and personal loans typically can have fixed rates for a set amount of dollars. For example, if I have 2 to 3 different credit cards and I want to pay them off sooner than later, maybe want to consider taking a personal loan and putting them all into one loan where I can make one monthly payment and keep that going over an extended period of time as opposed to making multiple payments on my credit cards or different loans. There's also the option of refinancing your loans. Mortgage refinancing right now again is a little bit on the trickier side because rates are higher. However, if you have a mortgage rate that's on the higher side and you do want to refinance, 100% talk to your lender and see what options are available to you. With auto refinancing, that does depend on your credit score, where if you have an older loan and you're looking for some cash flow month to month, maybe 100% having that conversation with your lender, or maybe even switching lenders to say, you know what, where I've been at has not been giving me the best rate, and I see this new lender is going to give me a better rate, potentially switching and seeing what application fees are associated with that. It might be in your financial interest to do that. And I also want to talk about debt consolidation loans, where they're incredibly useful, but I also want to bring about the risks associated with debt consolidation loans and credit card balance transfers as well, where if you take advantage of the introductory rate associated with a credit card balance transfer, that introductory rate of 0% or a lower rate is only for a certain period of time. It could be 6 months, could be a year, and you also want to be mindful of not using that credit card that you just transfer the balance over because you don't want to run the risk of potentially putting yourself in twice the amount of debt. Uh, it's a bit more tricky. It's a bit more risky, but depending on the person, this can be a useful option for you when it comes to credit card balance transfers. Debt consolidation loans, these are, I do want to mention debt repayment and debt settlement. There is a significant difference between debt repayment, I'm sorry, debt management plans and debt settlement plans, where with debt settlement plans, you might settle for less the amount that is owed, and that does have a potential impact on your credit versus debt management plans, which can still have an impact on your credit, but they do different things, which is what we'll talk about a little bit later. And again, I can't stress this enough. If as you're going through this presentation, you feel like you want to make the first step, you want to immediately jump into debt repayment, and you feel like, all right, what can I do first? I would 100% contact GreenPath at huecu.org/GreenPath. They offer great resources, great information for credit, budget, and federal student loan counseling as well. If you want to contact, just please let them, they offer extended business hours from 10 to 6, and multiple different languages. And please just say HUECU sent you, and you'll be able to speak to someone, and you'll get you right on started on your journey. So, as I alluded to earlier, the debt management plan. This option is amazing if it applies to you. If you've tried the other situations that I mentioned earlier and it's not working for you, a debt management plan is a potential step. What it does is it reduces interest rates on debts. For example, what I did is I had two other credit cards that I was working with that also had high interest rates, and I placed them in a debt management plan. What it allowed me to do was GreenPath took X amount of dollars. For me, it was 66 on a weekly basis out of my account, and they would then apply that money on my behalf to the loan. And what they would do is they would negotiate with my lender to potentially reduce the interest rate. And so that way my payment was a bit more applicable on the principal as opposed to just the interest rate. And while this is happening, I'm getting my financial counseling, I'm learning about what's going on, but there is a cost associated with this as well. For example, if I have 5 credit cards, there is a cost of $10 per line that is inputted into each debt management plan. But for Massachusetts, that monthly max is $75. So, for example, if I had 8 different lines that was inputting or yeah, and putting into a debt management plan, it wouldn't cost me $80. It would only cost me 75. And I do want to stress debt management plans are not the same as debt settlement plans. Debt settlement plans typically allow you to settle your debt for less than the amount owed, but that can show up on your credit report and it can potentially impact you in the future when you are looking to get new lines of credit extended to you. To go a little bit deeper into debt management plans, and I know this is a bit of a busy slide, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by this, but I do want to stress the importance and the impact of a debt management plan. This member in this example was able to pay off their debt 40 months sooner and save roughly $32,000. So how it works is initially this member is paying roughly $650 to their loans, and the majority of it was going towards the interest, as you can see here. This 573, this is all towards interest, and $75 was going towards principal. I don't know about you, but I've been in situations where I feel like all my money is going towards these loans and they're not making a dent in as far as how far it's going down. On the Green Path program here in the middle column, that kind of gets restructured a little bit, where interest is only $234. There is a service fee because this member is putting in 5 lines, $10 per line. But that principal payment of $484, that's significant. To be able to restructure that and still roughly pay the same amount of money per month into your loans, but have the majority of your payment be applied towards principal is huge. That's a savings for this member. They were able to benefit $338. So of that reapplied principal payment. And they did decrease on the late and over limit charges. But again, that $400 principal payment re- ended up resulting in almost $32,000 of savings for this member. If you are viewing this presentation and you feel like a debt management plan is the right option for you, please, please, please contact GreenPath and begin the conversation, take the first steps, and see where they can potentially help you with your benefits and potentially help you save money. Now, as you went through this, I know I went through this kind of quick. Some next steps are please stay motivated and take action. If you have anything at all that you would like to ask, put in the Q&A, please do so now and be more than happy to answer your questions. I'll give it a couple minutes. But if there are no questions and you feel like you don't want to say anything right now, that's completely okay. Please contact Green Path. They'll be more than happy to help, more than happy to answer any questions you do have. But that has been today's presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for spending time with us on your lunch break. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.